Ladies and gentlemen, we're here.
I'm part of the Kliq, isn't everybody?
Yes! 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 I got an idea, yeah. Beat up John Cena!
Give me a hell yeah!
Oh, a little bit of the bubbly.
Too sweet! This is where the power lies!
I am the man.
It's showtime, folks!
The following episode is scheduled for one fall, and it is for your listening pleasure. This is In The Kliq.
What's up, everybody? Baby Huey here, and sitting right next to me is my brother, Tommy. How's it going, Tommy?
Hey, what's up?
And once again, our good brother from Pro Wrestling 101, it's Richard. How's it going, Richard?
Good moment, fellas.
Good moment. I like that. Okay, a little bit different there. Let's have good morning. We are kind of recording. It's somewhat, well, I guess it's morning for Tommy and stuff. For me, normally, like, this time of the day, it's
12:32 right now.
It's lunchtime for me. So, but here we are, the day after NXT TakeOver 30. And this episode of In The Kliq is going to be just dedicated to that, just recapping and reviewing the big show last night. And as always, please subscribe to In The Kliq on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at In The Kliq. And subscribe to us on YouTube as well. I noticed our numbers have been getting a little bit better there. That's awesome. We appreciate all the support. And yeah, like I said, this episode is going to be strictly NXT TakeOver 30 review. And as always, we're going to start big, kind of give our initial thoughts, and then we'll work our way down and recap and break down all the individual matches. And all of this is all in preparation for the big weekend that is SummerSlam weekend. So a lot of stuff going on later on today. We will be watching SummerSlam, and we'll do a review for that as well. So thank you again to all the Kliqsters out there for the continuous support. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. And Richard, what was your initial thoughts of NXT TakeOver 30? And then, like I said, we'll go down to the matches afterwards.
I felt like this is the best show of the quarantine of any company.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the action was just so, like, loud.
Yeah.
I know that the people around the ring, the fans in attendance are NXT trainees, but man, it was loud and you could tell that they were into it. It wasn't just like directions from people saying be extra loud. I also think it probably helps them that now that they're doing this Thunderdome thing, that people have time to like not do this every single day or multiple hours in a day. So
yeah,
the energy just felt like, you know, I didn't feel like we were in quarantine. I felt like we were watching a takeover. So I was very, very pleased with it.
Okay, good to hear that. Tommy, how about yourself? What was your initial, just overall thoughts on this episode of NXT TakeOver?
The theatrics of it looked really good. The presentation overall was pretty good.
Okay, cool. Good to hear that. I will admit, for me, it felt a little flat for me, and I'm just trying to be honest here. There were some matches that were really good. Some matches I think just didn't deliver to all the hype. I will say that. And this event, I felt suffered a little bit from not having the fans there. And I'll get into that as we break into it. But like I said, Richie, you brought up a good point. The trainees and the other NXT people around the ring did their best to kind of keep the energy up and going. Shout out to Shotzi Blackheart. Heard her scream
oh my God,
throughout
yes.
the night. And you can tell it's her. She has a unique scream. It's like ear shattering. Like I don't know how to do it properly. Like she just
it's a heavy metal scream.
Yeah, it's like a metalcore, like a cat scream. I don't know. I don't want to butcher it.
Did you hear Bailey was saying something.
Yes.
Was it to Bronson Reed? Didn't he call him like big boy or something like that?
Well, I think that was Shotzi kept saying, thick
That was
boy,
Shotzi.
thick boy, thick boy.
Okay, I thought.
Boy!
Yeah.
I know I heard Bailey say something.
And so, yeah, that was the other thing, too. It was very cool. Throughout the night, we saw members of Raw and SmackDown there. As Tommy just mentioned, Bailey and Sasha were there. Cesaro, Drew McIntyre came up, was up in the
announce booth.
The announce booth. And so, yeah, no, overall, it was still an entertaining show, but there was aspects of it that were a little bit different than what I'm used to from a normal NXT takeover. And like I said, we'll go down individual matches.
Overall, I felt the presentation felt like a prize fight in boxing.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think for the main event, that was the goal going into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like I said, there were moments that was like awesome, and there were some moments I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of not what I'm used to from an NXT takeover. And I don't know if that's just part of just the evolution that NXT is trying to go towards. And maybe I was looking at some of the comments online and stuff, and people were thinking NXT is kind of evolving maybe more to more of a mainstream appeal versus what's been up until this point, which is kind of like a mixture of like independent wrestling, athleticism.
I think those might be new fans to NXT.
Yeah.
Because like the only thing I thought was a little flat, but it was still good, was Balor and Thatcher.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, that didn't feel like a takeover match. It was good, don't get me wrong, but it didn't have. I would rather have the NXT tag team titles be defended than have that match on the show.
Exactly, and that's something I feel like in the last couple months, the NXT tag team division's kind of fallen apart a little bit.
It's a little weak right now.
Especially, I mean, obviously since Pete Dunne has been able to be there, and obviously him and Riddle, their time as a tag team champions kind of fell apart pretty quickly, unfortunately, because of the pandemic, and they try to move on to Imperium, and then Imperium's they've been off and on there. So, yeah, the tag team division, which normally is like this great part of NXT, has been able to shine as much during this pandemic era. Yeah. And I guess, okay.
That division always seems to drop a bit when they take it like one or two tag teams and put them on the main roster. Yeah. And, unfortunately, they took the Forgotten Sons and they took Riddle, and Pete Dunne's left
overseas.
Yeah, till September 17th.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Huh. That's true. That was the other thing. So another big announcement. So yeah, besides all the superstars in attendance, it was also announced that NXT UK is coming back September 17th. And that's something we talked about on this show. What was it, last month or whatever, when Triple H had his press conference or media call announcing that, yeah, NXT UK is sticking around. They're trying to figure out how to get new shows up and going again. And now it's official. They are going to have new episodes coming September 17th. And I'm trying my best to kind of start watching those on the regular. I will admit, between all the wrestling that we watch and talk about, there's just not enough hours in the day and the week to watch even NXT UK. I just more watch their takeovers, and that's about it. But I want to support them and watch more of that stuff. I'm just a big fan of Walter. So hopefully finally get to see Walter in action again. And hopefully, and I'm kind of curious, maybe Imperium in the near future, are they going to drop the NXT tag championships and maybe go back to NXT UK? I don't know. We'll discuss that maybe later, see how this plays out. I guess, okay, what I'm getting back as far as the evolution of NXT, for me, and I think all of us, you guys please feel free to jump in as far as what we expect from an NXT takeover, as far as has now developed this reputation, at least from what I was watching regularly, like in 2018, 2019, it's a build up, a culmination of like months of storylines being built up and played out, as you say, Tom, like a big fight feeling. Each match is very important. It's to settle the score between major rivalries, and it's hard hitting. It's very athletic. It's stuff that you see over in New Japan, stuff that maybe was inspired like in Ring of Honor back in the day. And you see like a lot of false finishes and the crowd reacting and jumping into every moment. And it's just, like you said, hard hitting.
It also felt like a Starrcade event.
Yeah, over the top wrestling and just guys laying it all out there. And that's what made it, I think, separate itself very differently than what you might see on Raw or SmackDown. Raw or SmackDown definitely has more of that mainstream style and delivery of these like over the top characters and gimmicks and more that focus on the entertainment side of things versus maybe the actual just wrestling. And so I was just kind of noticing just people's reaction after this takeover, that you saw some more of that style kind of bleed into this takeover versus maybe what we're used to seeing at a previous takeover version. So it's just an interesting observation. I'm not saying it's good or bad, one or the other. It's just something I want to keep my eye on. If moving forward, will NXT takeovers start more evolving to more of like a similar style you might see at a WWE type pay-per-view, or will they kind of go back to what we're so used to with the NXT takeover? So, like I said, we'll go into that as we break down these matches here. So, the first match, I guess you want to call of the night, was on the pre-show. It was the triple threat tag matches. Tag teams fighting for the number one contendership. We saw Breezango, we saw Legado del Fantasma, and Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch. Richard, what was your initial takeaways from the pre-show match?
Didn't watch it.
Oh, you didn't watch it? Okay.
Nope.
For me, I enjoyed it. It was a good way just to get the crowd. Well, no, excuse me. I'm so used to saying get the crowd going. It was get the people inside, Full Sail going, but also for us, us at home watching, just get the crowd, us at home fired up. Very fun. I was a little surprised that Breezango got the win here, and they're going to take on Imperium again. Because didn't they just have a matchup not too long ago? I was kind of predicting that maybe Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch were going to win because they kind of been going back and forth with Imperium lately, but they haven't actually like a full-on match yet, if I remember correctly. No. So I thought, this kind of finally will set up that matchup between the two teams. And Legado del Fantasma, while I expect big things for them in the weeks and months to come, I thought it was a little premature for them to maybe get a title shot right away. I feel like they need to build them up a little bit more as this threat of a new faction. But nonetheless, Breezango got the win here. And I mean, I'm excited. I still think Legado del Fantasma, I'm glad they didn't eat the pin here. So they can, even though they lost on paper, they still look strong in defeat here in this situation. So I still expect them to, eventually, I hope they be in the tag title hunt pretty soon, and I wouldn't be surprised if they win it eventually, and then that adds to their stable as far as they got all the gold as far as the NXT Cruiserweight Championship with Santos, and then they have the tag title. So I still think they're a work in progress of building up as this badass faction. So
yeah,
we jump ahead to the main show for the night, which we saw, Richard, as you mentioned, Finn Balor taking on Timothy Thatcher. And this kind of came together kind of quickly, as we saw at this week's episode of NXT, the big overbooked finish for the night where everyone came out to the ring and was fighting each other, all the members of who's going to be in the ladder match. And then Timothy Thatcher came out from behind, attacked Finn Balor. And then like the next day it was announced like, oh yeah, it's an extra match added to the night. So not a lot of build up per se from a storyline standpoint. But nonetheless, I think a lot of people were just excited because these are just two names.
I think I would have been a little happier if they didn't announce it. You know, like Balor came out and demanded that Thatcher come out and face him.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
Yeah, like a follow, but like, hey, or yeah, I can see Finn come out and say, like, hey, you attacked me on NXT. I demand a match right now, a takeover. But so yeah, Richard, what was your initial just takeaways from this match for the night?
I thought it was a good match. I thought it was just a regular NXT TV match. You know, like it could have main evented a TV show, but it wasn't up to TakeOver standards for me. So it's not one I'll remember in a few months. Like, you know, It was fine. There was everything else in the show was better than it.
Yeah.
But, to start the show, I guess it was good.
Yeah, no.
I'm not hating this match. I thought it was a good match. Expect a little bit more from Balor, and my God, whenever he does the double stop, it looks so ugly.
I'm with you as far as this match was a little bit of a different presentation that we've seen out of Finn. Finn is a little bit more like the high flying and his versions of like very much these power spots. And this match became a lot more technical. Obviously, you're working a match with Timothy Thatcher. That's the type of match he's known for. So it was very interesting to see Finn work that style as well. So maybe for him, it was a nice change of scenery. But the match for the most part, yes, it was like putting each other in different like submission holds, stretch holds, and a lot of stop and go. And so sometimes for me, that I don't want to say boring is the word, but like sometimes it can be like, all right, where's this going? It's like rest hold after rest hold, submission hold after submission hold.
It was pretty redundant.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, let's kind of get this going. And finally, the second half, that's where it started picking up as far as Finn was attempting the double stomp, or what's the proper way? The Gunakra or
the coup de grace.
Coup de grace. And he like hurt look at one of his legs, and that's when Timothy was like, oh, that's his opening, started working on that leg.
That's where I started to feel like I don't know why that story was being told at the end of the match if they weren't going to do more with it.
Yeah.
You know, like the match probably could have gone another 5 minutes and Thatcher could have tried to work the leg a little more to tell that story, but like that might be where it fell flat for me, is like, why are you selling the leg if you just won, you know, like, and he didn't get jumped after the match or anything like that. So it didn't feel like now your leg hurts, but the match is done.
Yeah. And so I for me, like when,
unless he legit hurt his leg. So
yeah, it was interesting because like Timothy Thatcher, I think a lot of people love him. Obviously, his history in the independent scene, what he's done over in Europe, and his style is very unique, and it's different than what I think we're used to, especially like on the WWE roster side of things. So see Finn have to work a little bit of a different style to counter his Timothy Thatcher style of wrestling. That's what's made it interesting and different than we're used to seeing out of Finn. But yeah, at best, it served its purpose as far as an opening match goes, or as you say, it could easily be done on an episode of NXT. So not a lot of build up there. So I was like, oh, okay, cool little opener here. I guess, Richard, let me ask you this. I'm just kind of curious, what is Timothy Thatcher's ceiling within WWE? And I ask that because, like,
I get why you're asking.
You get what I'm saying? Because, like, okay, like
stylistically, it's different than everyone.
Because, like, listen, I heard Timothy Thatcher do an interview whenever it was, and he said, like, growing up, he was a big fan of Fit Finlay, and Fit Finlay, you know, is very known for his technical wrestling skills, which is awesome. You look at guys like him, also guys like William Regal, who are known for that style, but nonetheless, it's like, especially like Fit Finlay, at best on WWE, he was a lower mid-card guy. And so I wonder with Timothy Thatcher, while all of us were super excited, yeah, he signed with NXT, it's going to be awesome. But the more I think about it, I was like, what is long-term, what's his potential success within WWE? Like I said, what's his ceiling within WWE? I mean, obviously on NXT is probably much better for him than like Raw or SmackDown for his style, because like, as I said earlier, NXT is known for more of its wrestling. But even still, let's say if he's on NXT for a couple years, if he eventually does move over to Raw or SmackDown, could he evolve into something bigger? I mean, I don't know if he can ever be maybe a world champion per se, but you know what I mean? I'm just kind of curious, what's his long-term appeal within WWE? And I wonder if fans will really gravitate towards him.
I think he could be used as someone the way they used Bob Backlund in '93.
Okay.
Like you could have him come in to be the guy who's maybe even just a transitional world champion. You know, he wins the belt to get the belt off of one babyface so the other babyface can get it off of him.
Yeah.
Because he is legit. I mean, so that's the thing. Like, of all the guys in that company, in all of WWE, he's one of the more, like, that guy could probably win a fight with just about anyone type of people.
Yeah.
And he looks like a killer. So it's like, I think Vince, probably more so than anyone that works in WWE, might even see that over anyone else, because Vince's dad had Bob Backlund as his world champion for 4 or 5 years, and then Vince had him as this world champion. So I people don't give Vince enough credit, but that kind of style Vince has seen probably more than anyone that works there on a more legitimate basis. Yeah. Back when they made those guys the champions, because they didn't want someone to shoot and steal a victory on their world champions. So, because in the territory days, they used to do that. You would make the toughest guy your world champion in case someone tried to steal a belt.
So, and I'm glad you said that because, like I said, I'm watching Timothy Thatcher, and sorry not to go on this whole Timothy Thatcher side topic here discussion, but I was just watching this and I'm like, okay, it's been cool seeing him on NXT now. I just wonder, like, long term, what's his ceiling within WWE? Because sure, he can go, what he was doing before in the independents and Europe. I mean, it was awesome because, independence, in your smaller rooms and you're playing.
He doesn't feel like a WWE guy. That's the thing. Like,
yeah.
But he doesn't feel like a guy that you could pigeonhole into one company. Like, he's such an enigma to me.
Yeah.
Because of his style, his look, his attitude. Like, maybe the fact that he doesn't fit in anywhere makes him fit in. You know what I mean? Like, he's so different than everyone else that's what separates him. It's kind of like when you go back to the Attitude Era, like when Jericho and Benoit and the Radicals came into WWE, no one was wrestling a technical style like that. And then all of a sudden you have someone come in or people come in that like flip the company.
Yeah, it's just interesting to me because I'm watching this and, he's floated around and appeared in many promotions for years. And when you play like in some of those smaller rooms, you're able to do like submission hold after submission hold and then slap that he does. And then like, European uppercut, then another submission hold and then slap the chest, slap the chest again. So his style can play into like a small room. But yeah, I was wondering.
His style demands a lot of selling.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely who you work with as well to put you over as a performer. But yeah, I always wonder like his style, and I'm just thinking outside the box, could help put over like a WrestleMania type crowd in a football stadium. So anyway, that's just something I think about when I watch Timothy Thatcher now, because we've been lucky enough to see him in person, here in the Bay Area with APW, and then see him on NXT now.
He's from Sacramento, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a Sacramento guy.
Yeah.
I saw him last summer or the summer before, like one of the last Warped Tours at Shoreline. I saw him walking around and I was like, and I was working, like I was filming a segment for work, and Timothy Thatcher walked by and I was like getting ready to drop the microphone and just start running after him and be like, you're Timothy Thatcher. But I was like, I was in the middle of something. I could not get away. But like, and he walked out. I was like, oh, dude, Timothy Thatcher likes punk rock and whatnot. It's like, oh, I want to go talk to him. Or I should have filmed the segment with him. But anyway, if I ever see him, that'll be my one story for him. But anyway, that's just something to think about. And, I definitely keep my eye on moving forward, just what Timothy Thatcher's direction is with NXT. So, but nonetheless, yeah, solid just opening match to get the ball rolling for the night. And then jump ahead to the big ladder match, the 5-man ladder match for the vacant North American Championship. We saw, Damian Priest. We saw, Cameron Grimes, Johnny Gargano, Velveteen Dream, and Bronson Reed all make their way to the ring. And, a very fun second match. Richard, what was your initial thoughts on this, ladder match for the night?
This was a very impressive ladder match, and Cameron Grimes is extra Cameron Grimes in this match. Like, I'm sitting there and I'm watching it, and I'm kind of like looking at my phone a little bit, and then every couple seconds I'm hearing Cameron Grimes say something, to the moon,
to the moon.
Or I hear him screaming or making his crying noises, and it's just like every time I'm just like giggling to myself.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, this guy. We forgot to mention the show was Corey Graves, Beth Phoenix, and Vic Joseph.
Sorry, that's the other thing I was going to get to.
It was kind of hilarious for me to hear Corey Graves experience Cameron Grimes for the first time, because Corey was just like making like hill people jokes about Cameron Grimes, and then as Cameron kept making these noises, Corey just kept giggling, and I was like, oh my God, he's having the same feelings I am towards this.
Yeah, that's I'm glad you brought up the commentary, because I was going to mention that with all the superstars we saw there, and also the announcement of NXT UK. Different commentary group tonight. And also, before I forget real quick, since it's on my head, they also announced Tommaso Ciampa is coming back this Wednesday. So exciting stuff there. And I guess kind of maybe puts down some of the rumors that he was going to be part of Redemption. So thank God.
I got a question for you, considering there was an announcement all day that William Regal was going to be on the show. Did I miss something? What did you see, Regal?
I saw him. Didn't he greet Pat McAfee coming in? I think on the pre-show. So I was bouncing back and forth, but the pre-show, Pat McAfee and his crew were coming in, and William Regal greeted them, if I remember correctly.
That was it?
I think so. That was it. That's all I saw of him. He was pretty hands off this takeover as far as his presence goes. But yeah, no, I'm excited. Ciampa coming back this Wednesday, so we haven't seen him in a couple months since he lost to Cross at In Your House. And but yeah, the commentary, it was different. Yeah, it was Vic Joseph and Corey Graves on site inside Full Sail, and then Beth Phoenix working remotely again from home. Yeah, I mean, Tommy, do you happen to know, was Morrow doing something else yesterday?
He was in Canada.
Just
he was with
home?
Family.
Okay.
That's the report. So,
okay.
With quarantine,
travel and whatnot.
That travel's probably a bitch. And if you have access to grab someone that's local, I think that's probably the easiest explanation, because he's off of social media now. So
who?
Morrow.
Again? Oh no.
He's been off since the last whatever.
But I always worry, like, when he goes off social media, it's because
he's staying off now, apparently.
Okay. I just get worried because, obviously with his mental issues, which he's been very vocal about, stupid trolls out there who try to harass him on social media, it just kind of adds fuel to whatever he's going through, and he doesn't deserve that. So when he's
like Tommy, right?
No, Tommy's shaking his head. No. But anyway, when Morrow, if it helps his, mental well-being by staying off social media, it's all for that. So that's good. So
I was very pleased with this announcing team. Yeah. It was nice to watch a takeover where I wasn't being screamed at.
And that's the thing. Vic Joseph is kind of like a 180 as far as he's very calm. He's very polished, and he doesn't have like an overpowering voice.
Yeah, he's Michael Cole and Joey Styles' love child.
That's a good comparison. But I will admit, dude, like watching this, I miss Nigel still. Like, I know we talked about it before. I mean, Corey Graves, he's come a long way, and he's one of the good commentators now. But still, I still miss Nigel. Like,
he'll be back.
Hopefully, fingers crossed soon. I was kind of hoping maybe they could take Beth off and put Nigel and then Corey Graves. Like, how cool would it be? Corey Graves and Nigel going at it with Vic in the middle. Vic's trying to, he's Mr. Clean cut, goody two shoes. Like, stop it, you two. Stop fighting. But anyway, maybe down the road we can get that. So we'll see. But back to the ladder match. Tommy, how about yourself? What were kind of your initial takeaways from this ladder match?
I just liked how Cameron Grimes did the Jean-Claude Van Damme splits across the two ladders.
Yes.
And Priest later did a springboard kick that tripped Dream off the ladder. Velveteen. And
how about that Candice LeRae?
Rana?
Oh my God.
That had me so nervous because Johnny looked like he is a little concussed, and then he's grabbing her hand and helping her. Like, oh my God, I hope he doesn't drop her.
Yeah. I mean, and that's
when she tried to interfere, late in the match on behalf of her husband Gargano, and she grabbed Grimes off the ladder and then beat on him for a bit before Gargano took him out, with the ladder, and then
it looked like Grimes was going to take a swing at her, and then
and then he
used his best judgment.
Yeah, he used his best judgment, and then the whole when she tried to interfere again with Bronson Reed, when Bronson splashed on Gargano with LeRae on his back,
the piggyback frog splash.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like bit of a courtesy for him just to not squash her, but have her on his back, kind of just play it safe.
So that's what I was going to say. So the ladder match, my hat's off to everyone involved, because anytime you're in a ladder match, dude, you're putting your body on the line for, it's not an easy match to participate in. Just the amount of bumps you got to take, and you're usually got to fall from a higher level than what you're used to, and that's the thing. That's what I was going back to earlier. It's this match, obviously, if a crowd was there, they would have been going crazy and feeding off it. And I think this is something it just sucks that a crowd cannot be there to participate and enjoy it / just add their energy to it all.
There was elements to this match, though, that I will say was in their advantage that there wasn't a crowd there because of how often people were getting smashed against the sneeze guard, I'll call it.
Yeah, the sneeze guard.
And that spot with at the end with Velveteen Dream blasting, like, I don't know why we didn't see like 6 or 7 different angles of that or replays, because when that happened, I jumped. Like, I was, what the fuck just happened? So,
I was going to say, because of the crowd not being there, that spot with Velveteen Dream was able to happen. Normally, if the crowd was there, they wouldn't be able to do that. Or they could have, maybe if they planned it in the right spot, like maybe in the ramp way with tables there versus, but...
Well, especially because of the way they did it, because he had his feet on the ropes.
Yeah.
So it looked like an accident. And it was just like, oh no! So
to Velveteen Dream's credit and his athleticism, that he was able to control himself and his balance to step on that top rope and then springboard himself off that into the tables, which were many feet away. So kudos for Velveteen to
10, 12 feet.
To sell that spot and make it what it was. But yeah, you're right. I thought they were going to show multiple camera angles on that. Like, should I replay a few more times? But obviously that's what did it for him. And that's what eliminated him from the match as far as what the finish was not too soon after. But yeah, with this ladder match, I mean, that's the thing. It's more of like all these, major spots that, we were all just highlighting, talking about just now. I'll just say this. It was, I think we talked about it before, like early prediction was, I think we were all kind of favoring Damian Priest just because of the momentum he's had going, the way they've been kind of building him up. And I think to really sell the next stage of his career, or what the evolution of this character was going to be, like, he's Mr. Partier. He wants to live forever. In order to live forever, he needs to be successful, and he needs a title, I think, to kind of move forward that storyline of what his gimmick is all about. So it made sense for him to win the championship here. I mean, early on, I didn't think Velveteen or Johnny had a chance to win because they are former champions. I think just more their namesake and bringing some eyeballs to this match as far as the big name veterans being added to this match. I think that was their purpose. But dude, I mean, a part of me thought Cameron Grimes, I thought he was going to steal it there at the very end. Like, there were times
I did too.
Just Cameron Grimes, like, sneaking one out, and I laughed so hard when he pulled that little ladder out in the beginning of the match. He's like,
what's this on fire?
Who's this? What's... I was like, oh my, that's so funny. Bronson Reed, though, let's give it up for him. As Tom, as you said, the frog splash with Candice LeRae on his back, coming out with the Bam Bam Bigelow inspired outfit, the jacket and the ring gear. Oh, so good. And even though he lost here, this was a really big moment it was a big selling point that he's here to stay, and he's gonna get a big push very soon.
Yes.
So it was very cool seeing him. He had some great spots there. So, like I said, kudos to everyone for working their ass off, and despite a crowd not being there, like this is similar to what was it, WrestleMania? Was it WrestleMania or like the New Day? And, they had the ladder, and the Miz and Morrison, they had the ladder match at WrestleMania, and obviously...
Oh, yeah, the three-way ladder match.
Yeah, and it's tough doing a ladder match without a crowd there, because it's like you're taking all these big bumps for no one in attendance to cheer you on. So I sympathize with that. But obviously, you're still playing to the people at home watching on TV. I get that. But nonetheless, very similar feeling here watching these guys work their ass off. I mean, I don't think it was as good as Tommy the ladder match that we saw for the North American Championship in New Orleans a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, this was awesome and still very entertaining. So, and congrats to Damian Priest. And like Richard, you posted that photo of him. Whenever someone new wins a championship in NXT, Triple H has to take that courtesy photo of him pointing to the winner, the champion, and Damian Priest. Later on the night, Mackenzie was trying to interview him. He put his gear in his car,
and they had that hot tub waiting for him out there.
If you want my reaction, you got to follow me and party. And sure enough, there's a hot tub outside of Full Sail,
2 hot chicks in it.
Brandy Lauren and Jamie Jamison,
and just bottles of champagne everywhere,
and
they were popping off.
He jumps in the hot tub with his gear on still and the boots. Yeah. I was like, what?
My first thought when I saw that is those pants are ruined.
Yo, totally. And then And then it's like, those were probably made specifically for this takeover, and then boom, they're one and done.
Oh yeah, and I also made the funny.
They should probably, at next year's Access, like WrestleMania Access, they should have his pants like still fully soiled, like just hanging up from the night or something. But I was just gonna say this: my one concern is as soon as he jumped, he started drinking the champagne and he jumped in the water in the hot tub, the splash. The water hit the title, and I was like, "No, don't get the title wet." Like I was kind of concerned, like the leather, and then later on, we saw the photo of Triple H and Damian Priest in the hot tub, and the part of the title's in the water. I was like, "No, don't get it soaking wet."
I kind of made a funny joke about his outfit, Damian Priest's outfit. It's like I tweeted, like, did he get lost on the way to a BDSM orgy or something?
It's it's a very
risky bondage look.
Bondage / rocker, like it's almost like him and Rhea Ripley shop. That's what it was. I was thinking, did he take Rhea Ripley's pants for the night? So no, but
the chick on the left is Joey Janela's girlfriend.
Oh man, I heard that too. It's like, dude, Joey Janela. Dude,
Jelly Janela,
Jelly Nutella.
He has her, but before that, he had Penelope Ford. Like. How's that guy? How's he pulling in these girls? Like,
yeah, look at him.
I know. Like, no offense to the guy, but like, I'm not saying I'm some like stud or anything, but I see it's like, dude, how's he getting all these pulling in these babes, dude? So kudos to him. And Jamie Jameson, she's been working independent scene for a while, right? Like, she's
yeah, she's a Shimmer girl and Rise and like women's wrestling.
And yeah, like she's if you follow on social media, she's always following or hanging out with fellow like NXT people and stuff.
She's been on NXT a number of times too, just as enhancement talent.
Yeah,
but she's a good wrestler.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I wonder, by them being around, maybe they're trying to work their way into getting NXT eventually. So
sure,
fingers crossed for them. And then jump ahead to the third match of the main show. It was one I think we're all looking forward to. Adam Cole, baby, taking on Pat McAfee in the celebrity match of the night. Richard, man, what was your thoughts of this match here?
On a scale of David Arquette to Ronda Rousey, Pat McAfee is a Ronda Rousey. That was an unbelievable performance. It was a match.
Hell of a match.
I had no expectations coming into.
Yeah.
And it delivered big time. Big time. Pat McAfee, if Randy Orton wasn't having the tear that he's on this year, Pat McAfee could easily be the best heel of 2020.
Yeah.
Like, he comes out and cuts that heel promo on his way out. His work was great. Mm-hmm. He was such a cocky dick. It's like everything the Miz wish he could do. So, and I like the Miz, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But it's like he just does that swarmy dick thing so good.
Dude, and he has a face that you just want to slap. Like, you look at his face.
So does Adam, though. Like, that's the thing. Like, Adam Cole, when he smiles at someone, it's just like, God, that guy's an asshole.
You just want to slap the piss out of him.
But you look at you look at Pat McAfee and the way he like smiles and like the images that they were using for the promos for this match. He was just smiling.
Did this match, and this is not just because it's a former pro athlete against a wrestler, but the build up to this, the in ring, the video package all felt like WCW to me. Like, big time. Like, I just got, like, this WCW vibe out of it that I haven't felt for a very long time.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like... And this is not... more so like when Rodman came in than, like, Kevin Green.
Kevin Green.
But it was just like... I don't know. I was just like, this feels so different to me, but the same.
Well, and that's what
McAfee wrestles a lot better than Mongo. Mongo McMichael.
But that's the thing. I mean, and kudos to NXT and Triple H and whoever. Like we say many times, what old is new. NXT knows how to recycle just old story beats in wrestling and apply it today. Like, there's no reason why you can't use stuff from the 70s, 80s, or even 90s and use it now. It's over 20 years ago now, and it's a whole new audience that a lot of these people are being exposed to for the very first time. So yeah, if you get those WCW vibes, that's awesome. I mean, they could totally do that and use that. I mean, WCW's been long gone now. So, imagine
how often do you see someone out heel Adam Cole?
Right? I mean, that's the thing. Like, and that's something we talked about, I think, before. It's like, is Undisputed Era becoming babyface, or at least for this program? Or
I think it was just for this program, because like even on NXT this week, like when Pat came out and cut that promo, Adam's just standing up there like with his dick in his hands, and it's like there's a moment I've heard talked about with Triple H and The Rock when it's the Nation and DX, and it was before The Rock really knew how to like defend himself on a microphone, and Triple H just ate him up, and The Rock standing out there like, what? Like, what do I say? Yeah. So like that's what it felt like. But then Adam like comes back and damn, just an impressive match. Like that backflip that McAfee did, and then he jumps up
like a box jump. Yeah.
But like I guess
and then a suplex.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he was on the top rope with Adam.
He owns a ring at his house apparently, or his job.
And wasn't he?
And he's been training with Rip Rogers.
Rip Rogers, yes.
Okay, so yeah, so Tommy, how about you? What were your highlights from this match?
Just his athleticism was just amazing, and just the way he threw his workman punches were awesome.
Yes, his punches were.
His selling was so great.
Good. He didn't look lost.
His psychology looked great.
It was smooth the whole time.
Smooth transition in the ring.
And so that's the thing. So a couple things. Remember early on in the match, his guys come out, Undisputed Era guys come out. They're all, talking back and forth. Pat McAfee disappears. He's up on the top rope and does the Swanton.
That was terrific.
Oh my God.
That was terrific.
And then, also keep in mind, so, like they were going from spot to spot and it was smooth, but even like, Adam was kind of getting his offense in, and Pat McAfee made a comeback, and even Pat McAfee was kind of mocking him. He had him on his shoulders and he was doing squats. He's like, yeah, look at me. So the fact that as a heel, he was mocking Adam Cole and just the sport of pro wrestling was awesome. And, at one point, as you said, he was on the top rope. He did a backflip, ran back, box jump back on top, and then did the suplex on Adam Cole. I was like, damn, that's not easy. I mean, some of that, that's some of the stuff is like basic 101 when it comes to wrestling, like the lockup and stuff. But nonetheless, he sold it like he's been doing it for a long time. And then even, he tried to use the punt. And he tried to kick Adam Cole and hit the stairs. I was like, cool, that's a good spot there. He was like trying to use one of his strengths, and Adam Cole was able to counter it, and and he hurt himself. And Pat McAfee came back in, and Adam Cole finally got the offense going again. But yeah, the whole time I was just really impressed of this was a legit wrestling match, and it just looked very believable. And kudos to, I don't know, hopefully maybe down the road we'll get like a behind the scenes video documentary, a 24, whatever you want to call it, like behind the scenes explain how this match came together and the work that went into it, and showing maybe Pat McAfee working out, how long he actually trained for. But you could tell, obviously, maybe this was well scripted. I mean, and maybe even give kudos to Adam Cole for, I'm sure maybe
he carried it.
Yeah, he carried it.
Yeah.
He sold it. He called probably most of it. And even, kudos to the ref. Is it Drake?
Younger.
Yeah. I mean, as a ref, he's one of their more experienced refs that's been around for a long time now. So even for him, you could tell, I'm sure he was helping Pat along the way, probably calling stuff. And so between
the spots. Between
Adam Cole and the ref, I think the two of them really helped Pat McAfee get through this match.
And plus,
yeah, but I mean, I agree that like you're absolutely right. Drake Younger and Adam Cole had a big part of that, but like Pat McAfee came ready.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
To me, Pat McAfee looked like he was wrestling for like 10 years.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because we've seen your David Arquette before David Arquette now, and that kind of range is like Jay Leno or
Dennis
Kevin
Rodman.
Federline,
Dennis Rodman.
But like Pat came in, like I use Ronda Rousey as my example because Ronda came like that WrestleMania when that match was over. I forgot there was the rest of the show, and that was halfway through a WrestleMania because that felt like the main event. And we were done.
Yeah,
Pat Pat brought that same feeling. We're like, oh my God, this feels like a main event match. And it was just kind of like, it over delivered. It was so good.
Yep.
Like, and if they use Pat going forward in WWE, I could see him without the same money deal, of course, but like as something like a Brock Lesnar deal, where
Every once in a while
he comes in throughout the weeks to build the match, and then just as a takeover or main roster pay-per-view guy, because he was so damn impressive.
Well, that's what I'm thinking.
So damn impressive.
Yeah, where do they go with him now? As far as, like, does he still do the pre-show thing that he's done in the past? Because, like, it'd be kind of hard to go back to that, because he could be, like, you know, doing the pre-show and be like, oh, these two guys are wrestling? Yeah, you saw what I did with Adam Cole. I could easily wipe the floor with these two. So, like, moving forward, he has now a body of work that he could be like, oh, these guys suck. I mean, I can easily kick their ass. And he actually has, you know, proof that he can work. So, can he go back to that?
To Tommy's point, like one of my things with Gronkowski when they were going to bring him in is like you could tell with some of the spots he was doing little tiny things. He's a little stiff.
Yeah.
Pat didn't look stiff. Pat looked like a wrestler. Like he the working punches were great. Throws better punches than Ambrose.
Yes.
And he didn't move like your typical athlete coming into this. He moved like a guy that's had, you know, a few matches under his wings, and he hasn't. So very impressive.
I just
like even with Ronda, there was things that Ronda did that looked pretty snug. Whether they were meant to look snug or not, there was like the armbar takedown.
Yeah, like the hip toss or like those. Yeah.
And part of that might just be because they're judo throws that I'm not used to seeing on TV.
Yeah.
So, but back to Pat, he looked so comfortable, and I don't know if he had been working out with Adam the last couple of weeks doing this, but like they were pretty damn good together.
Totally. And by the way, nice tan from him as well, because he even said, like, I got a spray tan for this. So,
I mean, Pat McAfee just basically made Adam Cole look like a fool.
Yeah, in some way. In some ways. Yeah. As far as,
I mean, it just, even if he's not going to be a mainstay, it just made Cole look like he struggled more than he should have, even if he did underestimate him.
Yeah, it was amazing how much offense Pat McAfee got into the former NXT champion. I can see that.
But he's a bigger, stronger athlete.
Yeah, I mean, and I think they're trying to excel the point he is a former NFL player. Even though it's a punter. Nonetheless, it's a former NFL player. So in many ways, he's just as tough as any NXT superstar. I think that's the point they were trying to sell with that. Yeah, because I was a little taken.
He's got a good size, too.
And I was a little taken. He's bigger than Adam Cole. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but everyone is besides Gargano.
So, But nonetheless, it's going to be interesting moving forward how Pat McAfee's going to keep being used on NXT. Or, maybe he can move over to WWE and challenge some of the guys over there. So, and I liked his outfit. It was like the jorts and like a tank top. So, I like how he didn't get like new.
But he had some wrestling shoes on.
Yeah, and he had like the pad to say something, his brand on it.
Yeah.
For the brand.
But I like that he didn't go get like custom gear made. He just wore like regular street clothes, the jorts.
They weren't boots, but he had like Greco-Roman wrestling shoes.
So, So moving forward, like I said, interesting to see what they use with him. And hopefully it's one and done, and maybe Adam Cole can move on to. It'd be interesting where Adam Cole goes with all this as well with NXT. So jump ahead to the next match of the night, which was for the women's NXT championship. Io Shirai, the champion, taking on Dakota Kai, and definitely one of my favorites from the night. Richard, how about you?
Best match of the night.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what Tommy was telling me off the air,
too. That was my favorite match of the night.
Like, midway, or the first half of that match, I was like, it's good. Mm-hmm. And then the last half of that match was like, oh my God. Like,
it got better.
I've been saying this for a long time. Dakota Kai is probably the best all-around wrestler in wrestling. Like,
interesting.
Her selling is above and beyond everyone else's.
Is she right up there with Asuka?
Yes.
Okay.
I think she and Asuka could tear it down.
Wow.
I think the only thing that holds her back is maybe her look and size.
Yeah,
but she's not as small as Candice. She looks skinny, but like.
But she's very athletic. She's still
extremely athletic.
Tone. Yeah.
And she's got that great attitude.
Yeah.
I love her moveset. And she's just believable the way she does things. Like, the part of that is because of her selling. Like, she looks like she's struggling. She looks frustrated at points.
Yeah.
When she needs to look frustrated.
Right.
That scorpion kick thing she does is awesome.
Oh, that was great.
I love that.
Yeah.
It looked like Io got fucked up at the beginning when she was trying to do that handspring thing. And that might have been why the first
Yeah, it was
couple
like the
minutes-
multiple backflips.
It looked like she
Yeah.
slipped and
Yeah.
landed on her head.
Yeah, and well, also
It was a slight botch, I thought.
yeah, and because Dakota, she kind of looked like Dakota was trying to step out of the way and let Io do
Yeah,
her
and the
thing.
referee was
But
like,
she
stand
sold
back.
it and kept it moving.
Yeah,
you know?
and then Io, to her credit, she got back up, and then Dakota like waited a second, let Io collect herself, and then she went back in, and then Io knocked her down and started doing work on the leg again. So they quickly recovered pretty quickly. So I give them that. I was going to say for Dakota, like the first half, she was working on Io's arm a lot. And that was good as far as the psychology, working on the arm and how that will affect the second half of the match, which we saw.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, they worked their ass off. Just Dakota Kai, obviously using the various kicks in her arsenal to her advantage. And I was a little bit worried because, like, okay, going into this, Raquel has been off TV for a while, and Dakota was trying to sell the fact that she could do this on her own. And then on the Go Home show, we saw Raquel return, and it was like, oh, how's this going to affect the story here? And it's like, is Dakota, is she going to get involved in the match, or could there be some wonky finish, and like Raquel screws up, and Dakota gets mad, and that can ultimately break them up. But what we saw, it was Raquel get in there, or there was the ref got knocked out from being hit by Dakota.
Yes, that was awesome.
Dude, that was a great shout out to Tom Caster. He's a Bay Area guy who's repping for NXT now.
He's the guy that broke his ankle real bad a year ago. So if you guys remember seeing a photo of a referee with his ankle dangling like Sid Vicious's leg.
And finish the match still.
And finish the match.
Wow.
Yes. What a pro.
Totally. And his brother's awesome. His brother's still here locally, and we see him at time to time from wrestling shows. But yeah, so he was knocked out. Raquel gets in there, lays out like her version of a power bomb on Io Shirai, grabs Dakota, throws her on there, grabs the ref, but then Io kicked out. I'm like, oh my God.
That was great.
Because I thought, oh my God, this is the X factor of Raquel getting involved. And then sure enough, Io starts mounting the comeback and hits the moonsault outside, and then threw Dakota in, do the moonsault again, and ultimately get the victory. So, wow, Io Shirai looked like a total badass.
And I loved her hand palm strikes,
Yeah, oh yeah, like slapping Dakota.
Yeah, the hard jumping palm strikes.
And after the match, we saw Dakota come in, and I'm not scared. Raquel come in, attack Io, and then Rhea comes out. Kind of for the same, the big stare down, and like, wow, I didn't realize Rhea and Raquel were almost the same height. So it's kind of cool. Like, Raquel's finally going to get maybe her own little singles push now, singles run, instead of just being the Diesel to Dakota's Shawn Michaels. So
yeah, or she's like the bigger version of Sonya Deville.
Yeah, so it'd be cool. So maybe for Rhea Ripley, her next match she's done probably dealing with the Robert Stone brand, which I was a little bummed because I thought maybe her and Mercedes could have like another match.
She murdered Mercedes on NXT.
Yeah, outside the ring, that power bomb
shattered her skull.
So we saw Io celebrating Rhea that last shot. She was standing up on the ramp, just staring her down. So it's going to be interesting turn of events as far as Rhea maybe take on Raquel. She'll probably get the victory there, and then wants a title shot after that. So the women's division, they got some interesting things going on here moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are a bunch of photos after that little segment of Io celebrating in the ring. You could see Rhea on the ramp kind of staring Io down. So
yeah.
So I think you're right. We'll probably get a couple of matches with Raquel and Reina, probably tag team matches with Io and Dakota involved. And then Rhea, like you said, will probably most likely move on to Io at some point.
Yeah, and so I think the big push is on to get Rhea back up to top status for NXT, where she was before WrestleMania played out. So, this is still part of the build-up process, getting Rhea back up in the main event scene. So it's going to be interesting. And last but not least was the main event for the night, the NXT Championship match. Woo! Champion Keith Lee taking on Karrion Kross. I'll say this, my little disclaimer. Tommy and I, we were talking after the match last night, and we had our initial thoughts about it. But now, as some news came out afterwards, now it kind of explains why things played out the way it did, and that kind of maybe changed my thought a little bit of it. We'll get into that in a second. So, Richard, what was your initial takeaways from this main event here?
First off, I would like to say how absolutely stellar that video package is. Mm-hmm. And that's probably the best video package I've seen since WrestleMania 17 my way for Rock and Austin.
Yep.
That was that was movie quality good.
Whoever did that should get a raise and been like, I'm surprised why not Raw and SmackDown do similar video packages like that. It's shocking to me.
Blame Kevin Dunn.
But it's shocking. Like, whoever made that for NXT, kudos if Triple H gave the green light on that. Shawn Michaels, Jeremy Borash, whoever made that happen, that was awesome. And we should be seeing more of that, like, especially when it comes to like the big four pay-per-views and the main event. Like, even back in the day, remember when Shawn Michaels returned, or had that one really great video package, I think with The Undertaker, but like showed the Elimination Chamber stuff, and God,
well, that was part of the thing. I'm wondering, because they were already in talks with Metallica, because Metallica was going to play Undertaker to the ring at WrestleMania.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So for AJ, him and AJ.
Oh, okay.
So I wonder if that was just a continuing conversation of, hey, we're not going to do it here. Can we use the song for Mania? We want to do something with you. We got a TakeOver coming up. That's our big 30th TakeOver.
Yeah.
Well, also, I love that video package so much.
Well, also just because Metallica is releasing S&M 2 next weekend, to be exact, and
we were there for that concert.
Yeah. So Moth and the Flame, that was the theme song for this NXT, which was awesome. And so obviously that was so Metallica's on a big promotion push right now, obviously promoting the release of S&M 2, and so it's just very cool that Metallica and WWE have this partnership right now going. Obviously, it works both ways. They get the theme song for their pay-per-view, and then Metallica gets all the publicity for S&M 2 coming out next weekend. So it's...
let me ask you for the match, because I was kind of with you. Despite... We find out the Kross injures his shoulder somewhere in the match.
Yeah.
But before that happens, Kross smashing Lee's hand, and it's already something that, like, a story that's been told for a while now with Adam Cole and Keith Lee of the hand smash. Remember when Cole smashed Keith Lee's hand before they had their title match, and that was a story going into the title match that those two had. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't tell Kross got injured, which is crazy, because I even took notes during the match, like Lee is struggling to keep up with Kross. Mm-hmm. And I felt like at times it looked like Kross was slowing his game down to match where Lee was at.
Okay.
So I was like, when you sent me a text about Kross, I was shocked to hear that he was the one that got hurt.
Okay. Yeah.
It was just kind of, and we don't know the extent of it.
Yeah.
He's going in Monday for an MRI, so it might be a month, which, easily he could hold the title for a month and not worry about it. But like, there was spots in that match because they kept telling that story of Kross trying to give him the Doomsday Saito and he couldn't get it. Mm-hmm. And then when he finally gets it, he only gets a 2 count. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't the best main event takeover match, but it still felt like these guys are destroying each other.
Yeah. So what I was alluding to earlier was, I thought the main event was a little bit disappointing and didn't live up to the full hype that we saw, especially, as you said, that Metallica video package. I was like, oh my God. When I saw that, I was like, I cannot wait for this main event.
We were hyped for it.
Yeah, we were super excited. And then Well, before I finish, Tommy, so what were some of your thoughts too? Because we were talking last night. Like, what were you telling me last night?
I was kind of just very disappointed in the match. I mean, I'm not going to take away the injury, what happened to him.
Yeah, so I will say this. So the disclaimer for Tommy and I, these are our initial thoughts before we found out the injury. So give your initial thoughts, and then we'll explain. Or go ahead, finish. Tell me what you told me last night.
Okay.
And then we'll go into the injury part of it.
I thought the match was kind of bland.
Yeah.
And I thought just his facial expressions in that were just a little bit cartoony for me.
Whose facial expression?
Cross.
Okay.
And I felt...
Blasphemy.
I'm sorry, but it's just...
Just kidding.
I just felt that...
Well, last night you said parts of it felt a little boring.
It was boring, and I felt Cross didn't have a lot of that just intensity, the violence, and during the match, and
being like a murderer out there.
Yeah,
and
just like a psychopath out there.
Okay, so I'm glad you. So no, Richard. So the reason I want Tommy,
and I also wanted to say that at times Cross kind of sells like a robot.
Yeah, a little bit. So, okay. So the reason I want Tommy to say that, so these were our initial thoughts, him and I discussing last night. But now that we hear that Cross hurt his shoulder pretty early on in the match, that now kind of explains why the match turned out the way it did.
Yeah.
And so now knowing that, it's like, okay, that kind of explains it. It kind of gives him a pass a little bit, maybe how this match played out. So maybe early on, Keith Lee realized, okay, the guy I'm facing here hurt his shoulder. We cannot go 100% that we had planned here. So we got to adjust on the fly. So that kind of explains it. Because when your shoulder is out like that, I mean, God, that's painful. And obviously it's tough to lift someone, throw punches. I mean, the shoulder is a big part of, I think, people's wrestling, just in general, especially Karrion Kross's style. So now, last night, I think we were both being very critical of it. But now that we slept on it, we learned more about the injury. That kind of explains it. Okay, we can not be as harsh about this main event.
Right.
Like I said, the main event did not play out what we wanted to see, and now that makes sense why. But nonetheless, kudos to Karrion Kross for finishing this match.
Toughing it out.
As hurt as he was, he's definitely won our respects in that aspect as far as finishing the match and the show. I guess... now it's tough to kind of analyze it, knowing it wasn't their fault.
The outcome now.
Well, but it's tough to be critical in some parts of it because they couldn't do anything. He was limited on what his moveset were if you have an injured shoulder.
Right.
So, part of it was I was hoping that this match, we're going to see Karrion Kross come out there, Richard, and be like this monster and just start beating the crap out of Keith Lee.
I wanted to see the mean streak in him.
Well, I think part of that, though, is you're telling a story. Because part of this, if you think about it, Kross has never faced someone that size with that athleticism. He's probably faced super heavyweight guys or heavyweight guys that are not athletic. But I mean, part of Keith Lee's appeal is that he's a freak athlete. The guy should not move the way he does that size. So he should move. By looking at him, you'd think he moved like Bronson Reed.
Yeah, totally.
But he's just such a, because when the match started, Keith went after him. It wasn't the other way around, because the first couple minutes of that match, it's Kross covering up from Keith. And I would love to know where in that match he got the injury.
Me too. And I rewatched the match this morning, and so I was trying to watch, and I noticed at least the last quarter of the match, Kross was just more favoring his shoulder, and his arm was against his waist a lot of the time. And there was one part where Keith Lee was about to drag him to the corner, and you could tell he was going to grab his right arm, but then he quickly stopped and grabbed the left arm to grab. So he hurt his right shoulder look like the non-tattoo side.
The non-tatted. Okay.
Yeah. So Keith was going to grab that, but then he grabbed his tatted up arm and used that to pull him. So you could tell Keith Lee knew what was going on. So
and that's the one that he landed on with the finish, with the Doomsday from the second rope.
Yeah.
He landed on that shoulder.
Well, even towards the end where they're on top of the rope there and Karrion's just throwing these punches, but you could tell they're not very hard hitting. They're just like very soft, like just slaps.
See,
Just
because
taps.
when I watched it the first time around, I'm just thinking like maybe he's just exhausted from lifting this guy. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
Well, I just felt like
but it makes a lot of sense that he got hurt. It just was really hard to like make sense that he got hurt.
yeah. So for me, like, listen, it's tough to me to be super critical of this match now,
Yeah.
knowing of the injury. So, like, here's some of my initial thoughts before the injury, or finding out about this injury happening. I just thought it never went to like second gear. I felt it was very slow pace most of the time. Even they're throwing the punches, like when outside, when Keith Lee was against the, as you said, the sneeze guard, and Karen was throwing these punches, and finally Keith moved his head and he hit the plastic. Like, even those weren't like super hard throwing punches.
And no one, I noticed the sneeze guard was just dangling there during the match. No one could have just, fix it,
I don't know. But anyway, I'm just saying, like, I just felt they were kind of slow paced the whole time. And I was like, wow, is Keith Lee gassed? Is Karrion Kross like holding back? I was just hoping, like you said, the story of Karen was going to be like this machine and like just start beating the crap out of Keith Lee. Mm-hmm. And there was one moment we saw Keith Lee finally start like hulking up when he was in that sleeper hold.
Yeah.
But it didn't really pay off too much.
Right.
So, like I said, it's super tough to me to analyze this knowing that the injury. So the injury, it just kind of threw this whole match out the window as far as probably what the story they were going to try to tell. But I just say this, I was hoping, and maybe we'll get this down the road if both are healthy, as far as Karrion Kross coming out there. I would like to see more of the hard hitting, just laying into Keith Lee.
What he typically does.
Yeah, into him. That Keith Lee can't. Obviously, yeah, Keith Lee is this monster himself that Karrion's never faced. So, like, he'll go and dish out these big power moves on the Karrion Kross, and Karrion Kross will be a little startled, but then Karrion Kross will snap out of it and be like a maniac Terminator / killing machine going in there, beating the crap out of him. I felt like there was a lot of rest holds or submission type holds, and so that's why I felt like the match kind of slowed down at some parts. And now maybe it makes sense because he's injured, so he's like, let's just lay here for a bit. I don't know.
It's just a way to stall, kind of.
Let's look at the best case scenario here, right? That Kross is able to come back in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
He can still be on TV.
Mm-hmm.
He just won't be wrestling, which is fine because they haven't been using him as a wrestler that often anyway.
Yeah.
Because you can easily have him, you can have Scarlett, you can have, like the scene a week or so ago of the wreckage backstage with the bodies laid out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you could have something where it's Scarlett and she took out Mia Yim to provoke Keith Lee. Since Karrion Kross isn't going to lay hands on her, Scarlett can do something like that. So they can build, because I think Keith is probably going to stick around till the Royal Rumble, and I think there's potential that he wins the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
So if you have Keith around the next couple months till January to feud with Kross one way or another, you build up Kross as legit.
Yeah.
And you get the better payoff from TakeOver 30 with those two down the road.
I guess what I was hoping for also is, okay, Dominik Dijakovic was very much a part of the video package and part of this storyline. They hardly talked about him at all in this match. I thought he was going to make an appearance. He didn't make an appearance.
I'm with you. I thought that he was going to make an appearance, or Ciampa.
Yeah,
Especially
exactly.
when they had the Ciampa return video earlier in the night.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, okay, they're going to swerve this. He's going to screw Kross out of the title.
Yeah, like the Kross's past haunting him and ultimately affecting the outcome here. But also, I was kind of hoping like that maybe Kross would start beating the crap out of Keith Lee and says, "You like that? This is what I did to your friend Dominik," and like kind of just laying into him, be like, "You like this? This," like kind of reminding Keith Lee, like, "You know what I can do, and like I'm gonna beat you up like I beat up Dominik Dijakovic, your boy," and like just kind of like showing a little more personality in that sense. And I guess moving forward, and this all depends on the MRI and if he's going to be gone for a long time or not. I hope, maybe depending on how severe the injury is, if he can just rehab and just stay off not wrestle, but be on TV still. Or I hope it's not the worst case scenario where he actually may have to get surgery and be gone for a while. Maybe you have to vacate the title. Who knows? But I want to see moving forward more of Karrion Kross's personality. We haven't heard a lot.
Yeah, they haven't given him a lot of mic time, and that's actually one of his strongest points is his mic work.
Exactly. And so I kind of want to learn more about him and Scarlett in the ring, on the mic. I know he's great at doing video packages on social media and whatnot. I just kind of want to learn more about who they are, what their purpose is. Yeah, more speaking and just not be known more as just this couple has a great ring entrance. Like, I want to learn more of Karrion Kross, because listen, he was the big free agent signing in the last year. So now moving forward, I want to see what all this hype was and remind people or show people what was so great about him that we didn't see, in Impact Wrestling or other promotions he's worked at. So I just kind of want to see what all the hubbub is about Karrion Kross. So that's ultimately what I'm getting at. And so, like I said, like I had a lot of talking points about that main event, but I feel like all of it's out the window now because of this injury.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you then, what was your reaction when he won?
I was not surprised. I was like, all right. But then I was like, cool. But then at the same time, I was a little bit, they're putting the rocket on him. And I think we talked about this before. I was a little worried about him getting his main event match, championship match so early in his NXT run.
Yes.
I thought they should have Keith Lee and Kross on these parallel paths, each doing their thing respectively, tearing up, beating up people, and build up to a matchup maybe in November or Royal Rumble weekend in January. So like more of a slow build, but the fact that...
Here's a question I want to pose to you, because I had this thought last night. Do you think it was a mistake having Adam Cole not lose the belt to Keith Lee maybe a month and a half before? Keith Lee could have been the champion a month and a half longer than he was.
Okay, and I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to say, let's reflect now on Keith Lee's championship run. So he won at Great American Bash. So he's 6 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
It sucks that Keith Lee, it feels like ultimately he was just a quick transitional champion.
Yeah.
And it kind of seems foolish now that he gave up the North American Championship so fast now. So now he has no titles. He has nothing now. So
I wonder what that could mean for him.
Yeah, he's probably going to maybe on Raw or SmackDown very soon now. But yeah, I'm with you. It seems like a very quick transition from Adam Cole to Karrion Kross as far as the championship. So I hate to think of Keith Lee as a paper champion, but as you said before, babyfaces don't have long title reigns in NXT. It's always about the heels and having the babyface go on the journey to get there.
Yeah, it's always been like that in the NWA.
Yeah, that's the great storytelling there. So, yeah. I mean, listen, I love Keith Lee. We all love Keith Lee.
Yeah,
and he's going to have a bright future with WWE, and Vince loves him.
Hold on a second. This goes to a conversation we had last week.
Mm-hmm.
What happens tonight on SummerSlam if Randy Orton beats Drew McIntyre for that world title? You might have a new opponent in Keith Lee come Monday.
Ooh, so you're predicting that quickly.
Yeah.
It could.
Okay. Hey, another reason why you got to tune in every week and see how this plays out. Yeah.
I mean, they just did that thing yesterday or the day before where they put out a video of Keith Lee and Drew McIntyre working out together.
Sparring, yeah.
Maybe that's a precursor to them having a match to determine who's going to get Randy Orton later.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. Dude, it's a great thing about wrestling. All these different combinations of how things could play out. It's cool.
Very interesting.
I mean, so maybe let's see how this plays out. But I think when we have more time, we can really reflect on Keith Lee's time in NXT / championship reign. I kind of feel bad for him how short it was, but nonetheless, it's all part of the bigger storyline here, and I'm sure all this is part of a purpose. But who knows? I mean, hypothetically, if Karrion Kross has a really bad injury and he's going to be out for a long time, he's going to have to give up that championship, unfortunately, and who knows how NXT is going to pivot from that. And
they'll probably have a tournament.
Yeah, a tournament. Maybe Keith Lee can win that and get it right back. I don't know. I mean, we're all just speaking very early before we know
speculating
how the MRA plays out. So, man. But nonetheless, the main event, like you said, was a little underwhelming.
Yeah.
And like I said, we could be super critical of it, but we can't because now we know he was hurt. So.
But here's the thing. I tore my left meniscus in my knee playing hockey years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the option of you can get surgery or you can stay off of it for 2 months, 2 or 3 months. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
The beauty of NXT, and apparently they're going to be taping some stuff coming up. I don't remember if they said for September or November.
But yeah, they've been taping. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's kind of the beauty of NXT is like especially with these video packages and the cinematic stuff, you could still do something with Cross cinematically and get a match out of it where it's not like he hasn't defended the title in X amount of days.
Yeah.
Therefore, he's stripped. You could still put something together cinematically because that was one of the greatest things at Impact for his stint there. You know, there's even a point where he took the Sandman and locked him in a broom closet and waterboarded him.
Oh my
God. Like, you can do stuff with Cross still with now that we've introduced the cinematic world. We all watched the Undertaker Last Ride series, and they even say in that remember when he punched the window for the Boneyard match, and they stopped the match for filming to pull out the glass, and it's like you could work around an injury like that with Cross in a month's time. You give him a few weeks to rest up, but I mean, it's not like there's another takeover in a month, you know?
Yeah.
They spread the takeovers out generously.
Yeah, which is great. A smart move. I mean, I kind of wish WWE would pull back from the number of pay-per-views they have and go maybe...
Plus, like when Shayna had the women's belt, how often would we actually even see her on TV? Like, you would build up a couple of weeks without even seeing her for a build up to a number one contender. And
what's even back with the old school NXT days when it was just an hour long on the network, it was great. Like, you would not get burnt out of these characters. You would see them once every 2, 3, 4 weeks. So when they did appear, it was a big deal.
Yeah. You'd see a Nakamura promo week 1, and by week 2 he has a match, even though they was filmed the same night.
Yeah. I mean, that was a great thing about the old NXT schedule was, and they could film like a 3 or 4 hour time period and get the next month of matches all set up. So, and that's one thing, you know, we talked about this a long time ago when they were going to USA Network that I kind of fear of them going live is, okay, you got to do a 2-hour show every week now live. Kind of worried that they might burn out some of these characters, like we oversaturate. But yeah, no, and that's the case in the pandemic era. Yeah, they can pre-record a lot of stuff. So with Cross, depending on the severity of the injury and what the course they want to go as far as healing up process, if he's able to stay champion and pre-record a bunch of stuff, that'll be interesting. I'm with you. I hurt my shoulder really bad years ago when I was playing basketball. And I didn't get surgery or anything. I just kind of rehabbed it with the trainer and stuff. And I think I missed a couple games, but I came back. Unfortunately, to this day, I still have the occasional shoulder injury. Like it's very loose. Like the tendons are not super strong. So if I move or jerk my body too fast, it could pop out still.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael Scott.
So, that's what Scarlett and Cross are going to say to each other now. But anyway, you know, looking back on it, I mean, I don't know if I could have had surgery to maybe strengthen it. But then if I had surgery, my season would have been done and I would have been gone for a long time. So I think it just depends on Cross and what he wants to do. You can rehab your shoulder and still compete. So I don't know. We all depends on the MRI. But like I said, despite the injury, I just want to see more of Cross and what his style is of wrestling and what his wrestling style is different from Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, kind of like the type of wrestling we've seen at previous takeovers with the matches that they've done. So
he's an MMA fighting Randy Orton. He's amazing.
Yes. So, and I have not seen too much of that. So I don't know. I don't have as much knowledge that you have. So,
yeah.
And I felt we haven't seen it yet. So, like I said, I still want to be optimistic, and I'm not going to be super critical of his style until I get to see it fully play out. Because let's be honest, his initial run so far is squash matches and just trying to set him up at who he is as this monster of a character. Then once plenty of time's gone by, then you kind of bring him back down to earth a little bit and kind of see more of his matches against opponents that can really go toe to toe with him. So, like I said, I don't expect Gargano, Adam Cole type matches from Karrion Kross, but I still want to see more from him, and hopefully this injury doesn't prevent from us seeing that sooner than later. So, nonetheless, hey, still a very fun show of NXT TakeOver. Yeah. Come on, anytime we get an NXT TakeOver, it's always going to be a fun weekend for us wrestling fans.
And we're always going to be thrilled to watch.
Yeah, and then later on today, we're going to watch SummerSlam. We'll do a separate review for that, and let's go home for tonight on that note. Richard, where can all the Kliqsters find you online?
You can only find me on Instagram at pro_wrestling_101. And please give our theme music band, Bounty Hunter Brothers, a follow on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.
Tommy, where can the Kliqsters find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at IronFist1982.
Awesome. And I'm Baby Huey. Follow me on Facebook at Baby Huey Official. Just curious how many people still use Facebook on the regular, though. That's a whole separate thing. But yeah, Instagram and Twitter at BabyHuey83, at In The Kliq, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram as well. Please like, follow, subscribe there. Also subscribe to our YouTube page at In The Kliq, and I got all the highlights there. And yeah, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. Please rate, comment, share the podcast with your family and friends and fellow wrestling people that you know, and leave a comment. Those comments do help, because I think if anyone's scrolling through trying to find a new podcast to listen to, if they read your comments and reviews, it gives people a motivation to subscribe to us. So thank you in advance for doing that. All right, on that note, let's go home for tonight, and that's the bottom line, because Huey said so.